Pokémon Detective Pikachu is the new film from director Rob Letterman, who's brought us films like Monsters vs. Aliens, Shark Tale, Gulliver's Travels, and the recent Goosebumps film. And this film is, of course, an adaptation of the Pokémon game series, more specifically the Detective Pikachu one. When an ace detective, Harry Goodman, passes away from tragic events, his son Tim Goodman, played by Justice Smith, has to come to his city, Rhyme City, where he was working, and kind of pack up his home and kind of clear it out, say his goodbyes. But once he's at the apartment, he stumbles across his dad's Pokemon partner, which is a Pikachu, voiced by Ryan Reynolds. He has amnesia, doesn't remember what happened. All he knows is that he used to work with Harry as a detective. So they decide to team up and try to solve what happened to his dad, if he's actually dead or not. And I was actually very curious in this film. When they announced that they were doing it, I thought it was almost kind of like a joke. Like, I didn't really take it all that seriously, but then when the trailer came out, I was like, oh no, this is an actual movie that they're making. And I was actually kind of blown away from that first trailer, and everything they were showing just seemed like the perfect kind of Pokemon movie. Sure, it is directed by Rob Letterman, who did make Shark Tale and worse, Gulliver's Travels. Ugh. But Monsters vs. Aliens, I think, is a decent time. Like, it's honestly like a fine animated film, and Goosebumps, I think, is actually his best film. So I was actually really hoping going into this film that this could end up being Rob Letterman's new best film, because it seemed like everything was put in correctly as it should be. It seemed like this could be the best video game movie that we've gotten ever, and is it? Yeah, pretty much. I actually walked out having a pleasant time with this film. So yes, it's the first ever good video game film. Is it perfect? No, not really. There's definitely some issues here. But overall, I'd say I really enjoyed this film. Like, I really did enjoy how they fleshed out this world as human and Pokemon interacting with each other. At first, it opens up almost like the beginning of a Pokemon game, where you're just in like this normal town and like there's like no Pokemon around, but as soon as you start going off in the forest, there's some lurking in the bushes. Once they get to Rhyme City, that's when the Pokemon just like populate the streets, and they've been incorporated into the world. They've got jobs, and they work with the humans. Everyone has like their own specific partner, and I really like the world building in this sense. It actually felt like a lived-in place that you could go to and you could actually see working out. And speaking of the Pokemon, I'm sure everyone wants to know, they all look fantastic. Like, design-wise, they look exactly like they should. You take those designs from the video games and bring them into live action, it looks really spot on. There's really no moment where the designs look like they're off in any way. Like, all of the designs are pretty game accurate. There are only like a few instances here and there where maybe the CGI isn't too perfect, which is kind of a complaint that I have with Rob Letterman's other film, Goosebumps, but there's really only a few spots where I could actually kind of notice that maybe the CG wasn't perfect there. For the most part, it looks very good. Like, you actually believe that these Pokemon are there, especially when it comes to Pikachu, who is definitely the best part of this film. Ryan Reynolds does a fantastic job portraying him. I was a little weary going in, mainly just because you wouldn't expect a character like Pikachu to be portrayed by Ryan Reynolds, because it'll make you think about Deadpool pretty much the entire time, but I actually thought he did a really good job here. He definitely fit very well his voice. I looked up some of the other actors that they were kind of considering, and I actually think Ryan Reynolds' voice, it makes more sense hearing his voice come out of this Pikachu more than those guys. As much as the other actors they had optioned up were really good, I think Ryan Reynolds definitely brought something here that makes him the best choice for sure. And I really liked his interactions with Justice Smith in this film, who definitely gives a better performance than what he gave in Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, and overall it's just a better character than what was in Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. They give you a reason to care about him, and I kind of enjoyed the kind of drama buildup that they were giving him near the beginning of the film. I will say though, there are definitely some moments where his acting isn't the best. I'm not trying to knock him down like personally or anything, because for the most part I thought he did a really good job, but there are definitely some instances, like there's one moment where things have to get a little emotional and he's trying to cry a bit, and it didn't seem all that real. But besides those moments here and there, I thought his performance was really good. He and Detective Pikachu had a really good back and forth with each other, and it made the movie really enjoyable, since it is just about these two characters going on a fun mystery together. And overall, I'd say the mystery, where the mystery takes them at least, offered a lot of fun scenes, like the mime sequence that they've hinted at a lot in the trailers. Like, that was a really fun sequence, really funny, and it ended in such a way that actually made me laugh, like, more than I thought I would. It was just a really clever joke. You see some Pokemon battles too that are really fun to watch. Like, just finally seeing Pokemon fight each other in a live action setting, and it's not like a terrible experience. Like, that's perfect. And the action sequences and the chase sequences were all handled very well. Like, there's this chase scene in an apartment building with these ape-poms chasing after Detective Pikachu and Tim Goodman, and that was a really fun sequence. There's this one where they go into the forest and Greninjas are after them, but then there's the landscape is starting to change around them and they gotta work with that. It's crazy, man, but it was a really well done thing. And even the third act, I had a pretty fun time with the action sequences they had there. And Rob Letterman has definitely proven himself, at least with the Goosebumps film that he did, that he's able to make really fun chase action sequences in these family films that he's done. And this film is no exception, of course. And believe it or not, the ending of this film actually kind of took me off guard as far as where they took it. No spoilers, of course, but I was kind of expecting them to go in a way that hinted at some future installments, but then certain things they do, I was just kind of like, oh, well, maybe not, I guess. Alright, and it actually delivered on something quite, kind of memorable and a little bit touching. Just a little touching in my heart. So I was actually kind of surprised with the way they ended this film, but I liked it overall. So I had fun with the action sequences, the mystery, where that took them, I really enjoyed. The two lead characters, I enjoyed watching them. The CGI is really well done. Henry Jackman's score, there are times where I actually thought I was listening to, like, an actual Pokemon game soundtrack, so he did a very good job nailing the sound for this film. I do think there are some other issues to be mentioned, though, besides the two that I mentioned earlier in this review. For example, the villain of this movie, as soon as they first showed up, I knew it was them, and it's pretty obvious. Like, you look at the cast list and see who's there, like who's on the cast list. It's kind of no surprise who the villain is in that sense, so that was a little disappointing. It's an interesting idea what the plan was. For the villain's plan, but overall just it was way too predictable, and I called it ahead of time, and it was just really lame. Some of the jokes don't really land. Like, there's one part in particular where Ryan Reynolds is just kind of going rapid fire with the Pikachu kind of screaming and yelling at Tim, but it just didn't really work for me, and that's when the jokes weren't really landing. Not really annoying, but just they weren't sticking as well. Catherine Newton, as much as I actually do like her as an actress, like Paranormal Activity 4, she's not awful in that film, and also Blockers is a much better performance for her than Paranormal Activity, and a really fun character there. But in this film, her character I just felt was a little underwritten. Like, they introduce her in a way that's so cartoony, but kind of perfect for a film like this, but then as the film kind of progresses, you kind of realize there's not much there except be a love interest, also detective for Tim, so it just really wasn't that compelling, and I wish they gave her more to do, because she's a really fine actress. Her Psyduck is definitely hilarious, though. Her Pokemon partner, the Psyduck, almost, is a standout of this film, so that was really good. Like I said, they're not a bad presence, it's just I wish there was kind of more for them to do. Also, no spoilers once again, but there's a moment where something bad happens, and it leads into this kind of, sad scene, but the way they get to that said sad scene was just a little confusing. Like, wait, why did just this lead to, this? I can't really say it without spoiling it, but I think you might get an idea of what I'm talking about when you see the film. But overall, despite these issues that I've mentioned throughout, I actually did have a fun time with this movie. I don't think it's perfect, though, because as I said, even though the mystery aspect was kind of enjoyable, it was very predictable as far as where it was eventually going to lead up, but I still had a fun time with this. Ryan Reynolds did a great job as the Pikachu. The CGI for it is fantastic. Justice Smith gives a really good performance, and that's good enough on its own, especially if you've seen Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom and what he had to do in that film. Woof. I don't think this is Rob Letterman's best film. I still think Goosebumps is the best one that he's done, and even that's not a perfect movie, but I do think that he's kind of improving in a lot of ways as a director since his Shark Tale and Gulliver's Travels days, and I'd really like for him to make a film that's just really great one day, and I think he's really got a chance at that at some point. I'm gonna give Pokémon Detective Pikachu a B-. Not perfect, but a decent film, a decent family film. Kids will definitely love the heck out of this, especially if they're fans of Pokemon, and if you want a legitimately fine, solid, almost a little touching video game movie that isn't mediocre like a Warcraft, then you can see this, and there you go. It's our first technically good video game movie. Still not perfect, but we'll get there someday. But if you've seen Pokemon Detective Pikachu, leave in the comments below what you thought of it. And as always, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe. I'm Jackson Fulcher. See you guys next time.